Hello, everyone. I'm Ed Barber. I'm External Affairs Manager at the National Housing Federation, and with me to conduct a pre-Smallers Conference interview is the chair of our National Smaller Housing Association conference, Charmaine Simei from Tuntum Housing. It's the chief executive, and we're going to run through a few questions ahead of the conference just to build up anticipation. So if I can start with the first, Charmaine, this conference will come almost 6 months after the spending review in June, when the government committed to investing significantly in the sector. In your view, how can smaller housing associations work with the government and others to meet that ambition?
Okay. Hi, Ed. Thank you. I think firstly what I want to say is I've worked in the sector for 30 years, and I think since about 2009, since the kind of financial crash, this is possibly one of the most exciting spending reviews there has been for housing in quite a long time. With regards to your kind of specific question about how smaller housing associations can help the government kind of meet their ambitions, I think smaller housing associations, especially those that are community-led or even culturally rooted, like my own at Tuntum Housing Association, I think we're uniquely positioned to be able to deliver targeted and impactful housing solutions, if we want to say, because of our hyper local focus. We're able to, I hope, demonstrate our value by being able to reach underserved communities and tailoring services to local needs, and being able to collaborate through consortia partnerships, again, to support delivery, increase supply, but again, basically reaching those communities that others can't reach as effectively. And I think contributing to policy conversations to ensure that diverse communities are reflected in national housing policies going forward. If I focus once more on supply for a minute, the scale of house building required, this is not just about numbers, this is about building sustainable communities. We're not just kind of delivering homes, we're building trust and resilience and opportunities in communities that have often been overlooked. And I think that's really important, and it's an important role for smaller housing associations to play.
Thanks, Charmaine. That sounds great, and a lot of opportunities there, particularly for smaller housing associations in quite an optimistic post-spending review context, as you say. If I can turn briefly to some of the challenges, because as we know, there are a vast kind of array of them, and that's kind of part of the reason why we get together in conferences like this to discuss the challenges as well as the opportunities. In your view, what challenges are you seeing as unique to smaller providers at the moment, and have these challenges changed at all in the past year?
I think the challenges are kind of generic across the sector. They're just possibly more acutely felt the smaller you are, if I'm honest. So you have the rising costs and inflation, which have made development and maintenance more expensive, but they disproportionately affect tighter budgets. Increased compliance demands, again, kind of really stretch limited resources, and I think test organisational resilience in smaller organisations. And I think, kind of linked to that, there are kind of digital transformation expectations in this space. And I think smaller housing associations may struggle to invest in that tech infrastructure while trying to prioritise frontline services. And I think lastly, one thing I'd want to say is that, with the pressure on local authority budgets and, third sector charities, it places additional pressures back on housing associations and community-led providers to fill that gap. And that's long been the case. But again, it's those stretching on tight budgets. And I think often without the resources or the recognition we need in the role that we're trying to play.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I suppose by their nature, then those challenges, as you say, I mean, it's been gradual over time, but they have changed in the last year because they've probably just gotten slightly more severe as time goes on, and the sort of systemic solutions maybe aren't met. The challenges there become more acute over time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a constant kind of, I suppose, reframing of your target operating model. What are you actually trying to deliver? What are you able to deliver? At the same time as trying to meet the rising cost of compliance and make sure that you're meeting and exceeding that. And it becomes an increasing challenge and something that kind of has to almost be under continual review.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely, and something that I'm sure we'll dig into in depth at the conference throughout all of the sessions in different facets of those problems that you kind of outlined.
Mm.
If we can turn to yourself personally, Charmaine, why are you looking forward to the conference in December? What do you get most out of it, and what do you think others will?
I think generally, the opportunity to connect and reflect is first and foremostly because, some of us are running to stand still, and to have that opportunity, often at conferences to, as I say, reflect, but also validate, okay, all right, we're all in the same boat. Oh, they've experienced that challenge. That's how they've overcome that. So learning from others that are navigating the same challenges is that's invaluable. That's invaluable. I think to champion collaboration, because I think, with all the challenges we've just discussed, there's wonderful opportunities out there, but there are also challenges. And I think kind of working together, and one of the sessions I'm particularly looking forward to is the session on collaboration, exploring alliances, joint working, joint ventures, positive examples of partnership models that really deliver for the customer, the best of both. How can that work going forward? So I think I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to contribute and share experience myself. Maybe share experience from a BME landlord perspective. And I'm also looking forward to understanding how other providers have made use of AI and technology, because everybody's moving into this space, but probably no one needs it more than smaller providers to be able to complement, if you like, that hyper-local approach.
Yes, yeah, that's really interesting. I like the phrase lots of smaller providers are kind of feeling like they're running to stand still. I think that kind of sums up the need for events such as this and spaces such as this to come together and to reflect and to share learning and expertise, because it can, a day, a week, a month, everything can pass by so quickly, and you just, as you say, trying to deal with the next challenge, and you don't have, it's hard to have that kind of future strategic view sometimes, and nice to have the external perspective to help you reflect on what's going on internally.
Just to add as well,
Yeah.
because I think I also am looking forward to the opportunity to be inspired, and if I ever needed it, to be kind of reignited and to reignite each other and our kind of collective passion, and kind of reignite that purpose, because I think that's what a good conference does. It puts that spring back in your step, and it makes you go back to the ranch with your kind of your sleeves rolled up and ready to really, you've got your list and you're ready to kind of get going again. So I'm looking forward to recharging.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Thanks, Charmaine. And lastly, following on from that former question, for anyone who's attending the conference for the first time, who may not be as familiar with the content and the kind of objectives of the conference, what would you say that they can do to get the most from the day?
I suppose first and foremostly, I would say be intentional. So first and foremostly, have a look at the agenda. What does a successful conference look like for you in terms of outcomes? What do you really, what deficit or gaps do you want to fill, if you like? Are there areas outside of your comfort zone or knowledge base that actually, yeah, go and take a seat in that room and see what you can come away with. I watched last year's chair of the conference, their video, and I think Angela had said something along the lines of that she often picks a theme before she goes to conferences, and I thought that was really good advice. I've never done that, so thank you, Angela. I think I might do that this year myself, short of being chair, that is. On the intentional lines, engage actively. I think you get out what you put in. Ask questions, join discussions, don't be afraid. Share your perspective, where you're able to, your contribution matters, and will support others. And you may well ask the question that somebody else isn't brave enough to ask. And I think, again, finally, on the intentional front, is network intentionally. Seek people out whose work resonates with yours, and follow up after the event. That's the legacy of a good event, that you've made a new contact, that you've learned something, that you've taken something away. And there's no excuse not to. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's what I would advise.
Intentionality in all its facets. That's a
Yeah.
great piece of advice and a nice note to end on. Thanks so much, Charmaine. That was really, really helpful.
Thank you, Ed. Have a lovely rest of the day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.